Hi, my name is Francis René. I'm the service and parts technician at Doucet Machinery. Today we're going to talk about transfer belts. We're going to talk about the different types of transfer belts that we have on our return conveyors. We're going to explain the application of each and also how to repair and install them on the return conveyors. Now we're going to talk about the types of transfer belts that we have here at Doucet on our return conveyors. There are three types. They're all 10 millimeters in diameter, 3/8 of an inch, which is the same. The first one that we have is this one, which is the most common one that is used on most of our return conveyors. As you see, this one is hollow, and the advantage of this one is it's easy to assemble. It's assembled with this connector here. We'll show a bit later on how you assemble it, that it's inserted in this hole right here, which makes this result. So this is the advantage of this one. It's easy to assemble, but it's limited to how big of the panels can be that it transfers on. Because it's hollow, if the panels are too heavy, it'll have a tendency to stretch a bit, the elasticity of it. So with machines with heavier panels, we come to our second transfer belt, which is this one. It's the same diameter as the other one, except that you can see it's solid. So it doesn't have as much as elasticity as the other one. This belt we use with heavier panels. When I say heavier, I say probably above 80 pounds, between 80 and 130 pounds panels. And also with machines that have big transfers, that has very long belts. Since this one is solid, it doesn't stretch as much as the other one, so it's more hefty. But to assemble it, you need to weld it. It's not as easy as the other one because the other one is assembled with a clip. The third and last one is this belt that you can see in the middle. It has a nylon cord that runs all the way through. This belt has no stretch at all. It's used on heavy-duty return conveyors that transfers panels that are more than 130 pounds. So this is the belt, the strongest belt, but it's very rarely used because usually transfer conveyors don't cycle that heavy panels. So there you go. So those are the main three types of belts that we have. Remember that when you're assembling the belt on the machine, prior to assembling it, you need to take the belt off the pulleys first. That will create a bit of slack and will give you a bit of slack to be able to assemble them. After the belt is assembled, after that you file it on back to the pulleys. That will tension it up so that the belt doesn't have too much slack. And the belt doesn't have to be that much tension. You can see here on a brand new machine, you still have a lot of play. It doesn't need to be, tight on the machine. So even if it lifts up, a couple of inches off the table, that's fine. The pulley will add enough grip on the belt, so it doesn't have to be too tight. You see how loose this is? This is more than enough. When you assemble the belt on the machine, I have an example here. When you purchase the belt, you'll have a certain, let's say it's sold at linear footage. So let's say you purchase 50 or 60 feet of material. What you'll do is you take that 50 or 60 feet roll, you file it around the machine. Remember, off the pulleys here, not on the pulley, off the pulleys. And then when you assemble it, you just line it up, maybe a bit of overlap, just a bit, and then you cut it to have a bit of overlap. And we'll explain to you a bit later how to weld it on, how to assemble it. And once it's assembled, you file it back on the pulleys. Now we're going to explain to you how to assemble the belts, depending on which type of belts you have, using the different tools. First one that we're going to show you is this one with the hollow. The tool that we use is this, which is sold by Doucet Machinery. I'm going to explain a little bit later how to do it if you don't have this tool, but this makes it a lot easier. First, you take the belt, you insert it inside the vice grip as so. You take the connector, you put it on the other side, you line it, and then you press it against each other. And then you take it out, and you got the belt assembled. And you repeat this step on the other side to join both of them together. If you don't have this tool, what you can do is you'll need to make the belt softer because you won't be able to tap it in. You need to use either a hot air gun or dipping the belt, in boiling water for a couple of minutes to soften up the belts. Don't use a torch or a flame because that will actually cook the belt. It will make it harder and very brittle. So don't use that. You either use a hot air gun or boiling water to soften up the belts if you don't have this tool. The other type of belt that we use is the solid one. What we use is this welding kit. We use a standard 40-watt soldering iron with a flat tip. And we also have this vise. So what you do to assemble it is very easy. You take the vise, you insert it like this, and then you screw this down to apply pressure. You do the same on the other side. Once the soldering iron is heated up, you insert it between both ends, you clamp it down, and once it's clamped down, you'll see the material starting to melt. Once you see that, you'll retract that, and you keep applying the pressure. Now I'm screw-eating because there was no pressure. You keep applying that pressure until the material cools off. Once the material is cooled off, after a couple of minutes, you just simply take those out of the vise, and then you cut off the excess melted material with a utility knife or with some scissors. One thing to note is if you have this belt with the 9-inch center, before welding it back together, you need to take a drill with a 1/8 of an inch bit and drill out a hole in the 9-inch center, perhaps 1/8 of an inch deep, 1/4 of an inch deep, just to clear it, just to clear the surface, because that nylon center will prevent the belt from welding together. So it's very important that you take that drill bit with an 1/8 of an inch drill bit and drill out that center before you weld it. One thing that I need to mention, what might happen on the transfer belt is that it may, uncouple because let's say a panel got entangled into it or it just came off the pulley, and the rest of the belt is still intact. Before you couple it back again, it's very important that you cut off perhaps 1/4 of an inch at the end of the belt so you have fresh material, because once the belt had a connector inserted inside it, the hole will be a bit bigger. So if you just simply connect it back together, it'll risk of popping out again. So it's very important that you cut 1/4 of an inch to have fresh material so that the connector has something to grab onto when you reconnect the belt. Now we're going to explain to you why exactly the belts are lined up like this. You might ask your question why the belts here are closer together than the ones that are further apart on the back. The reason is very simple. It's because when the panel comes out of the edge bander, the smaller boards, perhaps this long, need to have the belts closer together so that they pick up the board frankly and transfers it good. The bigger the board, that's why back here they're more spaced out, because let's say if you got a panel that's 4 or 5 feet long, you don't need to have belts that are close together here. The important is here for the smaller boards, and as we go further back, then they're spread more apart. So this is why the belts are laid out like this. Now this explains the different types of belts that we have, also the application for each, and how to fix them so that you don't have to minimize the downtime you have on your machine. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us. Our personnel would be more than happy to answer all of your questions.